Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis at third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Atlanta Braves in the second game of a 4-game series. Our starting pitching matchup for the Braves, right-hander Bryce Elder, and for the Padres, right-hander Yu Darvish. Hi again everyone, Sam Levitt inside our San Diego studios. First pitch in Atlanta coming up at 4:10 for Game 2 of this 4-game series. Now Game 2 with a split doubleheader on the schedule for tomorrow at Truist Park in Atlanta. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also hear from Robert Suarez and Jeremiah Estrada. We'll check in with Jesse Agler in just a handful of minutes as well. And I'll warn you, yes, today's pregame coverage will sound a lot like yesterday's pregame coverage because we're getting ready for the same game, same pitching matchup, but we'll have some fun here on the Padres Radio Network on this Sunday afternoon. But first, let's set the table. Brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971. With 3 locations, La Mesa Vista and Oceanside. Padres entered today with a record of 23-24. Padres bouncing back nicely on Friday after getting swept by the Rockies at home earlier this week. Meanwhile, the Braves are 26-15. Braves have lost 2 in a row, one to the Cubs on Wednesday, one to the Padres on Friday. Yu Darvish today attempting to reach a significant milestone. He's just 1 win away from 200 combined wins between his time in Nippon Professional Baseball in Japan and the major leagues. Darvish in the midst of an 18-inning scoreless streak. He is not allowed a run in 3 starts since coming off the IL. Well, on Friday, the Padres were looking to start the 7-game road trip on a high note in Atlanta. Let's take a look back at how they did it.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
The Padres trailed 1-0 heading to the 5th inning on Friday night. Luis Arraez led off with a single against Max Fried. Fernando Tatis Jr. walked. Jurickson Profar was next.
Profar swinging away this time, grounds it up the first baseline into right field, a base hit. Arraez is rounding third. Acuna gets to it. He'll send it into Olsen, an RBI single for Jurickson Profar, his second knock of the night, and the Padres have tied it up 1-1.
Padres weren't done. Jake Cronenworth dug in.
Fried comes home, runners stay put, and a ground ball base hit into right field. Tatis will score. Profar's on his way to third. Back-to-back RBI singles, and the Padres have jumped in front. It's 2-1.
Padres would score another run on a fielder's choice for Manny Machado. RBI for Manny. The Padres put together a 3-run, 4-hit 5th inning. Max Fried couldn't get out of the inning. Padres led 3-1. Matt Waldron was great in his start on Friday. 5 2/3 innings, 1 run given up, a career-high 10 strikeouts. Yuki Matsui got the final out of the 6th inning. Matsui and Enyel De Los Santos combined for a scoreless bottom of the 7th inning. Padres still led 3-1 going bottom 8. An intriguing move from Mike Shildt with the heart of the Braves order due up. He went to closer Robert Suarez. Suarez gave up a 1-out single to Marcelo Zuna. He gave up a 2-out double to put runners on second and third with 2 out. The rally was left up to the Braves' Michael Harris.
1-2. Suarez ready. Pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. 100-mile-an-hour heat. And a strikeout to end the 8th inning. No runs, 2 hits, and 2 left.
Mike Shildt then went to Jeremiah Estrada in the 9th inning. Estrada's first ever save opportunity in the major leagues. Estrada did this.
Pitch number 7 to short, swung on and missed, strike 3, and Estrada collects his first major league save, strikes out the side in the bottom of the 9th, The short skid is over, and the Padres win Game 1 in Atlanta 3-1. Matt Waldron, outstanding, gets a win, and the Padres' fifth-inning rally holds up as they open their trip with a victory here in Atlanta.
A really nice win for the Padres on Friday as they began this four-game series on a high note. Final score, Padres 3 and the Braves 1. And now we get ready for what is Game 2 of this four-game series in Atlanta. First pitch coming up in just a little bit. Let's go to Truist Park and check in with Jesse Agler.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
We go to Atlanta. We're joined by Jesse Agler with first pitch coming up at 4:10. And Jesse, obviously the weather played a big role in what happened yesterday. So I'll start with weather. How's the weather looking today in Atlanta?
All good. At least for now. I guess you never really know here. But, last night the forecast for today called for rain all afternoon long. And then it never rained. But there is also no rain in the forecast for tonight. There is no rain, most importantly, perhaps, in the forecast tomorrow when the two teams will try and play a doubleheader. So hopefully the weather storyline is now one that is behind us, at least until we get to Cincinnati, and then we'll start all over again.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in Cincinnati, the rest of this road trip. And you look at the schedule now for the Padres, Jesse. Obviously, it's a difficult 24 hours or so here because you have one game tonight, then two more tomorrow, then getting to Cincinnati, three more there. The Padres actually don't have an off day until a week from Thursday. So this all of a sudden becomes a pretty tough schedule for this team coming up.
Yeah, it's a pretty good stretch, and as you pointed out, it would have been even without the doubleheader. The good news, I guess, is that you had the day off on Thursday a couple of days ago. You essentially had a day off yesterday, so you're about as well set up to handle this as you can. You'll get the extra guy on the roster if necessary for the doubleheader tomorrow, and then it's the kind of stretch that is never comfortable when it comes to managing arms, maybe, but it is in a way the kind of stretch you're going to have a few times a year, every year. Could have been worse. Imagine if they were, in one of these stretches where there wasn't going to be an off day again for another couple of weeks. So, I know a week from Thursday sounds like it's forever from now, and there's no doubt this is going to be a challenging run here with one tonight, two tomorrow, right into the Reds, and then home for the holiday weekend against the Yankees and the Marlins. But, it is what it is, I always say this, but it's one of these things where this isn't something these players have never done before.
Right.
Whether it's the doubleheader or this kind of stretch of games. Tony and I have done it. Dylan Cease has done it. Manny Machado has done it. Is it the best? No, but it's definitely not the worst thing in the world either.
I joked before you came on that today's pregame was going to sound a lot like yesterday's pregame. So we're going to talk about Yu Darvish once again here today. We got Tony's thoughts on it yesterday, so we'll get your thoughts on it here today. Obviously, you going for a milestone here today, his 200th career win between the majors and Nippon Professional Baseball in Japan. And look, I think we all expect Yu Darvish to pitch a number of more years, certainly based on his contract with the Padres. So he's got a long way to go, but no doubt about it, Jesse. You zoom out, you look at what Darvish has done both internationally and here in the majors, and what a fine career it's been. What a nice opportunity for him here today.
A tremendous contributor to the game of baseball on a global level. Truly. He's one of these guys that helped usher in an era of Major League Baseball becoming a far more international sport. And look, I'm not, saying that he's the first trailblazer, but he is a trailblazer. He really is. He's on a list of guys that have really helped spread the reach of this game and specifically this league to places where it might not have reached as strongly as it has. And I think that's a really important, thing to keep in mind. I bring it up every once in a while, and I know you and I have had the conversation both on the air and off the air. The increased globalization of baseball is a really cool thing, that's kind of moving right now at its fastest speed that it's ever moved at. We were talking about it even here on Friday night. Was it Friday? I don't know the days anymore. Game 1 in Atlanta, and, all the guys from the Kingdom of the Netherlands on the field at the same time, right? Between Bogarts and Profar and Albies and Chadwick Tromp, who had come in to catch for the Braves. I mean, think about that. You're talking Aruba and Curacao, these tiny little places, and you got four guys on the field at the same time, from that that country and that kingdom, if you will, as they call it. And then obviously the influence that's come from, Asia and Japan and now Korea, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. It's reaching further and further. MLB playing regular season games, as we know, in Korea, playing regular season games in England. They're going to play them in France. They're going back to Tokyo with the Cubs and the Dodgers to begin next season. I'm just so fascinated by that. I think it's so neat because between all of that, the World Baseball Classic, and guys like you, Darvish, it really has made the sport a more global sport. And look, make no doubt about it, the idea for everybody who is in charge of Major League Baseball is for this to be a worldwide league. Not necessarily in terms of having franchises all around the world, because I don't know how doable that is, but in terms of being a sport that people are interested in, a league that people are interested in, really on all four corners of the map.
Very well said, Jesse. Good stuff on you, Darvish, and beyond. And looking forward to watching you pitch tonight against the Braves. Jesse, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 4 p.m. here in San Diego. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us here on the Padres Radio Network. Nice stuff there from Jesse. Good perspective on a guy like you, Darvish's impact on the game. Certainly, baseball has become, over the years, a very, very global game. Darvish on the mound for the Padres. Young right-hander Bryce Elder on the mound for the Braves today. Padres going for a second consecutive win in Atlanta. It's going to be a busy 24 hours because the Padres play here today. Then they'll turn around to play a game tomorrow at 9:20 a.m. Split doubleheader with Game 2 tomorrow at 3:20. So it's going to be really a long few days for the Padres when you consider the game tonight in Atlanta, then 2 more games tomorrow, then a flight to Cincinnati. Buckle up. Padres have a rough schedule here. We'll see how they do by the time this road trip comes to an end. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt and much, much more to get to. First pitch coming up at 4:10 in Atlanta on the Padres Radio Network. Welcome back to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you here inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 4:10 in Atlanta. Padres getting ready for Game 2 of this 4-game series. A split doubleheader looming tomorrow. By the way, the pitching matchup for Games 1 and 2 of that doubleheader tomorrow. Dylan Cease will pitch Game 1 for the Padres tomorrow against right-hander Reynaldo Lopez. And then Game 2, it'll be right-hander Randy Vasquez on the mound against left-hander Chris Sale. Right-hander Yu Darvish on the mound here today against right-hander Bryce Elder for the Braves. Joe Musgrove was originally slated to start today, but you certainly understand with the doubleheader tomorrow, the rain today, things getting shuffled around, that there were going to be some changes. So we know from Mike Shildt earlier today that Joe Musgrove will start on Tuesday in Atlanta. So that's when Joe will come off the IL. Tuesday in Cincinnati for that series opener against the Reds. So the good news, Joe is still slated to return on this road trip again. That'll be Tuesday in the series opener against the Reds. Speaking of Mike Shildt, let's hear more of what Mike Shildt had to say before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
And just for clarity, all of this was said by Mike Shildt yesterday before the game, but it all still applies to today. And like I said, I warned you, there were going to be a lot of elements that were similar to yesterday's pregame show. And as far as filling out our scorecards, both in the booth in Atlanta and here in the studio, we got really lucky here today because there were no changes to either lineup. So we are all set, scorecards filled out, ready to go. And that includes Manny Machado for his second straight game, batting fifth in the Padres lineup. Yesterday in Atlanta, Mike Shildt was asked if this fifth spot is Manny's new spot in the lineup.
I don't know if it's his new spot. It's his spot for today.
That's just something that every day, depending on pitcher, how he's doing.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I like the lineup. I like every lineup we put out, but I like this lineup. Pros in a really good spot, Crony's in a good spot, and it's just it just makes sense for Manny.
Xander Bogaerts had a couple of hits on Friday night. We'll get more into what Xander's done in the last 5 games or so here in a little bit. But here was Mike Shildt on what he's seen lately from Xander.
Oh, man, good at bats. He's behind the baseball. He's on time. He's getting through the baseball really well. He's driving it through all parts of the field. He looks good. Very encouraging.
Very encouraging indeed. You hope it's a sign of things to come for Xander. Here was Mike Shildt on what Yu Darvish has done well lately. Darvish in the midst of 18 consecutive scoreless innings.
His fastball as a starting point's had really good life to it. He's been able to throw it, and it's got good life to it. It's going where he wants to. The spin with Yu's always going to be there, but the slider has been very, very good as well. And so with the life in the fastball, the command of the fastball, the slider, plus his other ability to understand how to pitch has been a really nice combination.
We mentioned earlier Yu Darvish going for his 200th career win between Major League Baseball and Nippon Professional Baseball in Japan. We'll have more on that coming up a little bit later, but certainly a very, very important and nice milestone for you, whether he gets that here today or another day coming up. Here was Mike Shildt on that.
I think it's an amazing milestone. I was really blessed to be a part of. John Lester joined us at the end of 21 and got his 200th, and competing against Lester with Darvish on those clubs in Chicago, you just appreciate how they compete and how they take the ball and how and then you get to know them, and in Yu's case as well, just how well he takes care of himself and how he prepares, and he paid that forward in the younger part of his career, getting to know him a little bit, knowing people who do know him, like just how intentional this guy is to be great and dedicated to his craft, which allows his special ability to show up, and that allows you to create these legacy type milestones.
Young right-hander Bryce Elder on the mound for Atlanta today. We'll get more into Elder's numbers coming up in a little bit, but here was Mike Shildt yesterday on what the plan might be against Elder.
Yeah, we've got a clear idea what we want to do against Bryce, and, it's really as simple as it sounds. Now we have to go execute. We just want to make sure that we have our plan. Now we execute our plan, and if we do, great, and if he makes an adjustment, we make an adjustment. If we're not executing it, we make an adjustment back. And, regardless of what the actual plan is, it's a matter of having one, which we do, we talk about every day, and then going to execute it, and then making adjustments when necessary.
That was Padres manager Mike Schilt before the game yesterday. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game show after this one is over. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can tweet at me at Sammy Lev, SAMMYLEV. Instagram DMs open as well. Sammy Lev there too, SAMMYLEV. If you want to comment on our new video streams on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, you can do that too. I may just read your keys to today's game coming up a little bit later on. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with the hot category. Luis Arraez had a couple of more hits on Friday. In the midst of a 22-game on-base streak right now, tied for the longest of his career, Arraez is batting .340 in that span of 22 games. Jurickson Profar in the midst of a 6-game hitting streak, 7 for 21 in that span. His last 21 games, Profar batting .368 with 5 home runs. His .325 batting average for the season entered yesterday tied for 6th in the NL. His .922 OPS entered yesterday ranking 5th in the NL. Jackson Merrill hits in 4 of the last 5 games in that 5-game span. He's 8 for 16. For the Braves, Marcell Ozuna hitting .412 with 3 home runs, 9 RBIs during a current 10-game hitting streak. Ozuna entered yesterday leading the major leagues with 41 RBIs. In the not category, a couple of guys we look at. Number 1, Manny Machado, 2 for 34 in his last 9 games. Manny batting just .178 in his last 23 games with only 3 extra base hits in that span. That's a stretch of 90 at-bats for Manny. Ronald Acuna Jr., just 5 for 34 in his last 9 games. Through 40 games this season, Acuna, the reigning NL MVP, batting just .247 with 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, and a .699 OPS. And that is a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:10 in Atlanta. When we come back on the Padres Radio Network, we'll update you on some of the injuries for both these teams. As we get ready for today's game, we'll take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, our keys to the game, plus we hear from a couple of Padre relievers, Robert Suarez and Jeremiah Estrada. First pitch coming up at 4:10 in Atlanta on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:10 and in Atlanta. Good to have you with us on this Sunday. Beautiful Sunday here in America's finest city. Seems like the weather has got better in Atlanta, so looks like we should have a game here tonight and a doubleheader slated for tomorrow. And a reminder for you, you may have assumed this, but I'll just confirm it for you. Both games tomorrow and all our normal pre- and post-game coverage, we will have them both here on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. We'll get to some of your keys to today's game coming up in just a little bit, so if you want to get those in, you can right now. Tweet at me or DM me on Instagram at SammyLev, SammyLev. If you want to comment on the video streams as well, you can do that too. We'll read some of your keys to the game coming up here in just a little bit. Let's update you on the injuries for the Padres and the Braves entering Game 2 of this series.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at BadaFulkerson.com.
Let's start with something we said earlier in regards to Joe Musgrove. Musgrove was originally slated to pitch today. That was before the rain out yesterday, so the Padres shuffling some things around. Joe Musgrove now will return, according to Mike Schilt, on Tuesday in Cincinnati. So Musgrove should come off the IL on Tuesday to make that series opening start against the Reds. As far as the Braves, Austin Riley left Sunday's game a week ago now with left side tightness. He was out of the lineup on Friday. He was out of the lineup before the rain out yesterday. You thought maybe he'd be back in there today? No, he's out of the lineup once again. It sounds like he's going to start swinging a bat again here soon, but essentially, unless Riley's coming off the bench, Braves are sort of playing a man down right now. So Austin Riley, again, not in the lineup for Atlanta here tonight. A move before the game yesterday for Atlanta. They reinstated right-hander Pierce Johnson, the former Padre, from the IL before Saturday's game. So Johnson in the bullpen for the Braves here tonight. And that's a look at our injury report on this Sunday as we get ready for first pitch coming up in Atlanta. Let's take a quick look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at scores from around the major leagues, games that have gone final so far. Giants beat the Rockies 4-1 in San Francisco. Angels beat the Rangers 4-1 in Arlington earlier today. Pirates beat the Cubs 3-2 in Chicago. Royals beat the A's 8-4 in Kansas City. Astros beat the Brewers 9-4 in Houston earlier. Kyle Tucker, a couple of home runs in that game for the Astros. Guardians beat the Twins 5-2 in Cleveland. Will Brennan, a walk-off 3-run home run for the Guardians in that one. Blue Jays beat the Rays 5-2 in Toronto earlier. Daniel Vogelbach, a home run in that game for Toronto. Phillies beat the Nationals 11-5 in Philadelphia earlier today. The Orioles beat the Mariners 6-3 with a little help from a guy who's playing like an AL MVP right now, Gunnar Henderson.
1-2, and here's the pitch. Clobbered to right center field and deep. Rodriguez is back. He's at the wall. It's gone. A leadoff homer for Gunnar Henderson as he continues to pace baseball. That's number 15 for Gunnar. And it's 1-0 Baltimore.
Wow, 15 home runs already from Gunnar Henderson. That call courtesy of Orioles Radio. Let's stay in the American League East. The Yankees and the White Sox in the Bronx. Aaron Judge went deep.
Now Flexen with the 0-2 pitch. Swinging a fly ball, hit deep to right field, turning and watching near the wall is Jimenez, and it is gone off the top of the wall, right onto the porch, and it's a 2-run homer for Aaron Judge. The magnificent month of May continues for the Yankees captain, and it's a 7-2 Bombers lead.
Justin Shackle, WFAN Yankees Radio in New York. Yankees went on to win it by a final of 7-2. We're staying in the American League East. The Red Sox and the Cardinals today in St. Louis. A home run for Raffy.
Pitch.
Raffy drives one high into right center field. It is back at the track. It is at the wall. Ciani leaps. He can't get it. Devers has homered in 5 straight games. A towering shot, and it's 9-1 Red Sox.
That call from Red Sox Radio. Red Sox win it 11-3 in St. Louis. One other final today, Mets beat the Marlins 7-3 in Miami. Brandon Nimmo, a home run in that game for New York. Games going on right now. Reds and the Dodgers tied at 2 in L.A., 9th inning there. Tigers trailing the D-backs in Arizona, 6-4, 8th inning in Arizona. And that's it on the out-of-town scoreboard. One game yet to begin. It's this one in Atlanta between the Padres and the Braves. And it is Sunday Night Baseball, so that's why we're on a little bit late. So, hey, you're watching TV today and you don't love the broadcast you're hearing because it's not Don and Mud, we always invite you to tune in to Jesse and Tony. We'll be here for you throughout the evening. If you are not a normal radio listener, maybe you usually listen to the pregame and switch over to TV, we invite you to listen in, as always, as we bring you Padres baseball here on the Padres Radio Network. Well, certainly a big part of Friday's win was what the Padres did in the bullpen. So let's go through some of that right now. Padres went to Robert Suarez, their closer, in the 8th inning with the heart of the Braves order coming up. Suarez gave up a couple of hits, but he did get out of that 8th inning with the Padres still ahead 3-1. Let's hear some of what Robert Suarez had to say after the game inside the Padres clubhouse.
Robert, what are your thoughts when Mike tells you before the game that if it happens the way that it happened, he was going to use you in the 8th?
¿Qué fue lo que estás pensando cuando las cosas se presentaron y te avisaron que te utilizarían de esa manera en la octava?
Ya me habían dicho, yo estaba preparado para eso.
I was already told, so I was prepared for that to come in the 8th.
Right, when he did tell you before the 8th, what are your thoughts? Do you think that's great?
¿Alguna variación en tu pensamiento cuando entras al juego o se trata de simplemente lo mismo?
Salir a hacer trabajo y ayudar al equipo a ganar.
Well, it's just a matter of me going to the mound and just helping out the team win, and that's the best I could do.
Did you think he might go 2 innings?
¿Alguna vez pensaste que tal vez lanzarías 2 entradas?
No, no creo.
No, that wasn't the case at all.
No hoy.
At least not today.
Hice mucho picheo en ese inning.
There were a lot of pitches in that inning, so it wasn't really an option to go in the 9th.
Robert, the way that you have talked over the years is I think that maybe it would never even occur to you that you would say no or that you wouldn't do this, but not every closer would. Like, why is it that you feel that you will do whatever you are asked as a
Los que te conocemos sabemos que está pitches en cualquier situación, sin embargo es algo que no cualquier cerrador lo haría. Venía la octava. ¿Qué te distingue a ti? Simplemente utilizas el rol que te dan.
Sí, yo salgo allí con mentalidad de hacer mi trabajo, el inning que sea, ¿me entiendes?
And for me, it's really just a mentality of coming in and just pitching whatever inning I'm told, and today happened to be the 8th.
The last 3 outs are the hardest to get. What did you think of what Jeremiah did?
Los últimos 3 outs tienden a ser los más difíciles. ¿Qué pensaste de lo que hizo Jeremiah?
Todos los outs son difíciles, ¿me entiendes? Todos los outs son difíciles. Todos estamos saliendo allí a hacer un buen trabajo y por eso ganamos hoy.
Well, all outs are pretty hard here in the majors, so we each did our own part, and we were able to secure the win.
That was Robert Suarez inside the Padres clubhouse after the game on Friday. Interpreter there was the great Pedro Gutierrez. So Suarez did a great job in the 8th inning on Friday, but of course, when Mike Schultz went to him in the 8th inning, it begged the question, would Suarez come back out for a 6-out save, or would it be somebody else for the 9th inning? Well, that somebody ended up being Jeremiah Estrada. Estrada not only put together a 1-2-3 9th inning for his first ever save in the major leagues and his first ever save opportunity in the big leagues, but he struck out the side. We know Jeremiah has really, really good stuff, and maybe is somebody the Padres begin to rely on in high leverage situations. I caught up with Jeremiah Estrada at Petco Park earlier this week, so let's revisit some of that conversation. Here was Estrada talking about the early part of his season and more.
Of course, a lot of hard work has paid off working with Ruben and Ben, and having to fill with some of the other bullpen guys. I think it's also the type of vibe that you have in the bullpen with the team that builds in more of like enjoyment of going out there to pitch more, and it's been good, and it's it's hard. You know, I love putting more. I think it's a weird thing to say when performance takes place as well when you know what you have behind your back. Sure. With your teammates, you know, and it's huge, and I love it. And these guys are my new teammates, and I love to be here, and I give it to them, you know, my performance and to the coaching staff.
As far as your pitch mix, I mean, I've been looking at some of the fan graphs metrics, and when you look at some of these things like Stuff Plus, you get rated really, really highly as far as having really nasty stuff. So I want to ask you, how do you describe your stuff, your pitch mix?
I've never even knew what any of that stuff meant, like stuff mix, or like sometimes some of the guys tell me about like the vertical break movement and stuff. Like I'm like, I don't even know what that means, bro. You know, and I'm like, I just go out there and love to throw. You know, the pitch mix, just getting comfortable with every pitch that I have. You know, like once again, we're working with Ruben and Ben with the new slider that I have, and the fastball change has been what I've had, but it's been working well. You know, just trusting my stuff, trusting the catchers. You know, I really don't shake much, but I love to listen, and I trust both of those guys, Campy and also Higgy. You know, great guys to have, and whatever I throw, I feel comfortable with. Whatever they call.
Yeah, this is something I talked about with Michael King yesterday. I asked him what it really meant to be on the same page with a catcher, and you mentioned you're somebody that doesn't shake off much. What does that feel like to you when you're on the same page as the guy that's catching you?
It feels like you could take over the game. You know, you feel like you could take over the hitters, that you're in full control, and that their guy has nothing on you, you know, and to know that you guys are both, like how you were just saying, when you're both on the same page, you both have the same goal, and it's to get this guy out, and to both of us to talk about it in the dugout after we strike the guy out. You know, that's the thing you look forward to.
That was Jeremiah Estrada earlier this week on our pregame coverage. Nice revisiting that conversation. Yeah, Estrada, when you look at a lot of the metrics, whether it's fan graphs or whatnot, has really, really good stuff. He rates very, very highly. So we'll see what kind of role Jeremiah Estrada continues to have. Quite frankly, going to be very interesting to see how Mike Schultz manages the bullpen here today with the doubleheader looming tomorrow. Padres, again, don't have an off day until a week from Thursday. So it's going to be tough, the schedule coming up, and we'll see what the Padres do here tonight. They could certainly use a nice performance from Yu Darvish, and we'll talk more about Yu Darvish in just a moment. San Diego County Toyota dealers are proud partners of the Padres and supporters of the San Diego community, and we would like to especially recognize and honor the men and women who serve our country on this Military Sunday. Thank you, and go Padres. Let's give you our keys to the game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number one, a dealing Darvish. Yu Darvish has won 3 consecutive starts. He's in the midst of an 18 consecutive scoreless inning streak. That ties a career high, and right now tied for the longest active streak in the major leagues. 3 starts since coming off the IL. They've all been scoreless. Believe it or not, it's the first time Darvish has ever had 3 consecutive scoreless outings in his career. Padres need more of the same from you here tonight. Key number 2, swing for extra bases. Padres have not had an extra base hit in 3 consecutive games. That's tied for the longest streak of that kind in franchise history. It's the first time the Padres have gone 3 games without an extra base hit since 2014. Friday night was the first time since 2022 that any team had at least 13 hits without an extra base hit. Padres won the game on Friday with 13 singles. And key number 3, got to be better with RISP. Padres in their last 6 games just 5 for 45 with runners in scoring position. That certainly got to be better. And key number 4, keep being an elite road team. Padres are 13-8 on the road this season. Entering yesterday, that was the 5th best record on the road in the major leagues. Their offense continues to be much better on the road. Again, 13 hits on Friday. On the road this season, Padres batters have a major league best 288 batting average and a major league best 346 on base percentage. Now, the Braves have the NL's highest batting average at home so far in 2024 at 266. The Padres have scored 5.29 runs per game as the visiting team. That's the second highest run scoring average in the NL on the road. Braves are 15-6 at home. Entering yesterday, that was the best mark in the majors at home. So I bring it all up to say this. Padres have been great on the road. Braves have been great at home. Who wins out tonight? We'll find out, and that's a look at our keys to the game. When we come back, we'll read some of your keys to today's game. We'll also tell you what to watch for in this one, dive even deeper into our pitching matchup between Yu Darvish and Bryce Elder. First pitch at 4:10 in Atlanta. We go out to Jesse and Tony in just about 9 minutes, so stay tuned for all of that on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 4:10 in Atlanta. Yu Darvish on the mound for the Padres today, going for his 200th career win between his time in Japan and his time in the major leagues against right-hander Bryce Elder on the mound for Atlanta. More on that pitching matchup coming up in just a moment. Quickly, we read through some of your keys to today's game. Roberto on YouTube saying keys to the game. Number one, don't get rained out. Roberto, you make a good point. We've got Jen saying keys to the game, do whatever it takes, get some base hits in sequence, and get a win as a team. Jen, you make a good point. 13 hits, all singles on Friday, ended up being enough for a Padre win. And finally, we have Kalik saying, we take this one, and one of the double headers, we got this. Hey, that's a really good point. You win today's game, and all it would mean is you got to split the doubleheader tomorrow to win the series. So, yeah, winning tonight would make you feel pretty good heading into the split doubleheader tomorrow. Let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
We alluded to this a little bit earlier. Xander Bogaerts, 2 hits on Friday, also had a couple of stolen bases. He's 7 for 20 during a 5-game hitting streak. And what are we watching for in this one here today? Well, we've seen some mini runs like this from Xander this season, but they've shortly followed by a slump. So the question is this one of the mini runs? or is it the start of the run that we've all been waiting for? From Xander Bogaerts, we'll get part of that answer here tonight. We'll see if Xander can keep it rolling. That's what to watch for in today's game, with first pitch coming up at 4:10. Let's dive even deeper into our starting pitching matchup between Yu Darvish and Bryce Elder.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Yu Darvish on the mound for the Padres, 3-1, a 2.43 ERA in 8 starts this season. 3 consecutive scoreless outings since coming off the IL against the Dodgers, Cubs, and Reds. Darvish in the midst of 18 consecutive scoreless innings. That ties a career high. Last weekend against the Dodgers, he was great. 7 shutout innings. He gave up just 2 hits. 7 career starts against the Braves, 1-4 with a 5.30 ERA in his career against Atlanta. Like we've been saying, a win today for Darvish would be the 200th of his career between Nippon Professional Baseball and Major League Baseball. On the mound for Atlanta, right-hander Bryce Elder, 1-1, a 4.79 ERA in 4 starts, 20 innings and 2/3. He struck out 16, walked 8. He started the year at AAA Gwinnett. Allowed 2 runs in 5 innings and a third against the Mets last weekend, struck out 6. 1 career start against the Padres. That came all the way back in April of 2022. 4 innings and a third, 2 runs, 5 walks in that start in San Diego. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup. Yu Darvish for San Diego, Bryce Elder for Atlanta. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. After yesterday's rainout, now 1 game here today, 2 tomorrow. Padres come in with a record of 23-24. Braves are now 26-15. Who will get off on a high note here today with 3 games in basically 24 hours? We're going to find out in just a bit. When we come back, Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. will have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and then all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. Enjoy the game, everybody.